That frozen pizza sitting in your freezer right now feels harmless, it's quick, it's cheap. It's the kind of dinner you grab on busy nights when you don't want to think. You throw it in the oven, wait 15 minutes, and assume the worst thing about it is a few extra calories. But that assumption is exactly what these products rely on. Because frozen pizzas aren't designed to be food, they're designed to last. Long shelf life, consistent taste, maximum profit. And to achieve that, manufacturers use ultra-processed shortcuts most people never stop to question. The scary part isn't that people eat these pizzas. It's that they eat them regularly, often feeding them to kids, without ever realizing what's actually packed into that base, that cheese, and those toppings. And number 4 on today's list crosses a line so far, it turns a lazy dinner into something far more serious. Once you see what's really inside these boxes, you won't look at frozen pizza the same way again. Brand 1, McCain Pizza. McCain is the frozen pizza brand most Australian households trust, and that familiarity is exactly why it slips under the radar. This is the pizza people buy for quick dinners, kids' meals, and easy nights. It feels safe. It feels normal. And that's the problem. McCain frozen pizzas are built for consistency and shelf life, not nutrition. The base is made from refined flour, designed to stay stable in freezers for months. The sauce is engineered to taste bold after reheating, and the cheese is processed to melt the same way every time. Real ingredients don't behave like that, industrial ones do. The hidden issue is how processed everything is. Refined carbs, industrial oils, flavor enhancers, and preservatives work together to create something that looks like pizza, but behaves nothing like real food in the body. Blood sugar spikes fast, sodium load hits hard, and the full feeling doesn't last. What makes McCain especially risky is frequency. Because it's seen as harmless, it becomes a weekly habit, sometimes more. Families don't treat it as junk food. They treat it as dinner. McCain didn't make pizza easier. It made ultra-processed convenience feel like a normal meal. Brand 2, Dr. Oetker Pizza. Dr. Oetker frozen pizza hides behind one powerful illusion: quality. The European branding, the clean packaging, the authentic recipe language. It all signals premium. People assume this is a smarter choice. A step up from cheap frozen food. That assumption is exactly what lets this brand get away with more. Because once you look past the image, the formula is still industrial. The base relies on refined flour engineered for freezer stability. The sauce is intensified to survive reheating. The cheese is processed to melt evenly, not naturally. These aren't ingredients chosen for nutrition. They're chosen for predictability. What makes Dr. Oetker especially deceptive is portion psychology. The pizzas are smaller, which makes people feel controlled and responsible. But the density of refined carbs, sodium, and processed fats is still there. You just consume it faster, and often more frequently, because it feels lighter. And because it's branded as premium, it's treated as acceptable routine food. Weeknights, solo dinners. Better than takeaway. That mindset normally says ultra-processed food under a quality disguise. Dr. Oetker doesn't sell better pizza. It sells the idea of better pizza, while using the same shortcuts as everyone else. Brand 3, Woolworths Home Brand Pizza. Woolworths Home Brand frozen pizza relies on something more powerful than marketing: routine trust. People assume that if it's on Woolworths shelves, it must meet a basic standard. That assumption is exactly what allows this pizza to fly under the radar. This product isn't designed around food quality. It's designed around margins. To keep prices low, the base leans on refined flour that holds up in freezers for months. The sauce is intensified to taste pizza-like after reheating. The cheese is processed to melt consistently, not naturally. These choices aren't about flavor or nutrition. They're about efficiency. The real problem is frequency. Because it's cheap and convenient, this pizza becomes a regular solution. Families buy it without thinking. Kids eat it without question. What feels like a harmless dinner slowly becomes a weekly habit built on ultra-processed ingredients, excess sodium, and refined oils. There's no craftsmanship here, just compliance. Woolworths doesn't need to convince you this is good food. It just needs you to trust the logo and move on. Brand 4, Coles Home Brand Terrifying. Coles Home Brand Frozen Pizza is the point where convenience stops being harmless. This isn't just cheap food, it's a product engineered to survive months in the freezer while still tasting edible after reheating. And to achieve that, corners aren't trimmed. They're removed entirely. Everything about this pizza is designed for shelf life. The base is built from ultra-refined flour that behaves more like fillet than food. The sauce is concentrated and intensified to mask blandness. The cheese isn't real cheese in the way most people imagine. It's processed to melt, stretch, and brown consistently, not to nourish. What makes this terrifying is who eats it. Families, kids, people who think home brand just means simple and honest. This pizza isn't treated like junk. It's treated like dinner. And that means repeated exposure to refined carbs, industrial oils, excess sodium, and additives that don't exist in real kitchens. There's no warning label. No moment where you're told this isn't meant to be eaten regularly. It slides in the weekly routines quietly. And that's how damage hides. Coles doesn't need this pizza to be good for you. Brand 5 Aldi Casa Borelli Pizza. Aldi Casa Borelli sells one powerful idea: European simplicity, Italian colors, rustic names. The suggestion that this is closer to real pizza than the rest. That perception makes people relax, and that's exactly where the problem starts. Because behind the branding, this pizza is still built for the freezer, not the table. The dough relies on refined flour engineered to hold structure after long storage. The sauce is concentrated and adjusted to survive reheating. The cheese is processed to melt uniformly, not naturally. These aren't traditional Italian choices. They're industrial ones. What makes Casa Borelli risky is how convincing it looks. People assume it's a cleaner option, so they buy it more often. It doesn't feel like junk food. It feels like a smarter compromise. That mindset turns occasional convenience into routine consumption of ultra-processed ingredients. And because it's sold as simple, no one checks the ingredient list closely. Industrial oils, stabilizers, and excess sodium hide behind the promise of authenticity. Casa Borelli doesn't bring Italy to your kitchen. It brings the same processing shortcuts, just with better packaging. Brand 6, La Famiglia Pizza. La Famiglia is built on emotion. The name alone signals family dinners, tradition, and something made with care. It suggests warmth and authenticity, the kind of food you wouldn't question feeding to the people you care about most. That emotional framing is exactly what makes this brand risky. Because behind the family story, this pizza is still a frozen, ultra-processed product. The dough relies on refined flour designed for freezer stability, not digestion. The sauce is intensified to taste bold after reheating. The cheese is processed to melt and stretch predictably every single time. Real home cooking doesn't need that level of control factories do. What makes La Famiglia especially deceptive is how often it's chosen. It doesn't feel like junk food. It feels like a safe, middle ground option. So families buy it repeatedly, turning something meant to be occasional into a routine meal. Kids grow up eating it without ever realizing how processed it actually is. The branding does the convincing for you. No loud warnings, no extreme claims, just quiet reassurance, and that's how ultra-processed food becomes invisible. La Famiglia doesn't represent family cooking. It represents industrial food wearing a comforting story. Brand number 7, Meat-Loaded, extra cheese frozen pizzas, most damaging category. This is the category that does the most damage, not because it looks suspicious, but because it looks filling. Extra cheese, extra meat. Loaded, protein-packed. These pizzas are marketed as hearty meals, the kind that should keep you satisfied. In reality, they stack the worst parts of frozen food into a single box. The base is still ultra-refined flour. Then you add processed meats engineered for shelf life, not quality. Then layers of industrial cheese blends designed to melt, stretch, and brown perfectly. regardless of how unnatural the ingredients are. The result isn't nourishment, it's overload. What makes this category terrifying is density. More sodium, more refined fats, more additives. And because it feels substantial, people eat the entire pizza without hesitation, sometimes alongside other processed sides. Kids eat it, families share it, and no one treats it like junk food. These pizzas don't just replace real meals. They train taste buds to expect hyper-salted, hyper-fatty food as normal dinner. This isn't indulgence. It's ultra-processed excess disguised as comfort. By now, one thing should be obvious. Frozen pizza isn't dangerous because it's pizza. It's dangerous because of what had to be done to make it last, reheat, and taste the same every single time. What looks like an easy dinner is often the result of heavy processing, refined ingredients, and shortcuts designed for factories, not families. This isn't about never eating pizza again. It's about recognizing the difference between food made occasionally and food engineered for routine consumption. When ultra-processed meals become weekly habits, they stop being convenience and start shaping health in ways most people never connect back to the freezer aisle. The most worrying part isn't what's in one box. It's how quietly these products slide into family routines, especially for kids, without ever being questioned. Comfort food becomes default food, and default food becomes invisible. Real pizza doesn't need to survive months in a freezer. And real meals don't need ingredient lists longer than the recipe itself. Once you see that, these products become harder to justify. Now I want to hear from you. Which brand on this list shocked you the most? Was number 4 worse than you expected? Drop a comment. Your experience might help someone else rethink what's in their freezer. If you know families, parents, or anyone relying on frozen dinners during busy weeks, share this with them. And if you want more breakdowns exposing what's really inside everyday supermarket foods, make sure you're subscribed. Because once you understand how convenience food is built, you stop choosing what's easy and start choosing what actually matters.